Hey everybody, this is Denny.
And this is James from TeaDB, here at episode number 78. And Today we are reviewing a nice little raw pu'erh that I like quite a bit.
Cool. So James knows way more about this than I do, but this is a fairly young purple varietal raw pu'erh. I had asked James before the show if he knew this was a wild pick varietal or not, because I've had a lot of experience with purples being wild picked, but I'm sure it's to no fault of his own. James didn't know. So one thing that you can look for with wild picked teas is the sort of a diversity of the look of the tea stock itself, because it's wild pick and it's from tea plants that have been left to go on their own, but they might taste really great. Oftentimes that really lacks that sort of homogeneity, if that's the right word.
So what you're telling me is that wild pick tea is wild.
Just drink this stuff. Oh god.
Well, the loose leaves here are, this came from a cake that I acquired from Yunnan Sourcing, and you can see the leaves are very dark this is a 2012, it's a Yiwu Purple varietal pu'erh tea. So, and I'm just going to give this my customary 2 rinses and then have a go at it.
Sounds good. Definitely long tea leaves, and you'll find that in a lot of pu'erh. I find that more in raw pu'erh than ripe pu'erh, although I am no expert.
Yeah, I think they like to use the smaller leaves. I mean, it's definitely not true all the time for the ripe pu'erh, just because it gives that kind of really rich, creamy taste once it comes to your cup.
Totally, and like James was just saying, there's a huge spectrum of tea base material used in different pu'erh production, and it can be from different places, different factories, even many different farms, and the recipe, the sacred recipe is can be up for grabs. So
yeah, absolutely.
Looks really great in terms of liqueur. It's already getting nice and yellow.
So why don't we have a sniff of that?
Yeah, cheers. And it looks much greener in the cup, as purples are ought to do. Actually, this is pretty sweet.
Yep. So Yiwu tea is known for being a little bit softer and sweeter than their cousins over in Munghai County. So softer, blander with a sweeter aftertaste is generally the characteristic Yiwu flavor.
Ooh, it's nice. Not nearly as much petroleum, a little bit more fruit, plums.
Yeah, some of that kind of grainy corn. But
excited. It's gonna be nice and hot.
Yep.
And so, James, how did you hear about this tea? Just kind of.
Well, I bought a shitload of samples at Yunnan Sourcing, and this one, the price is right. I bought it for $24 for a 250-gram cake, so I thought that was a pretty decent deal for how much I enjoyed this tea.
Yeah.
And so, I bought a few of these cakes, and I think the price has gone up since then, but I think it's still a relatively affordable cake.
Awesome.
All right, let's have a go.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers.
Definitely mellow, sweet. Unlike a lot of raw pu'erh that I have had, the front of this isn't punching me in the face 800 times, which is a good sign. I think that could be a testament to the factory in the region.
Yeah, and this is a Yunnan Sourcing production, so Scott actually went out to the mountains, bought the malcha, and pressed it into his own cakes.
Still has that very characteristic smoky raw pu'erh taste, but it's definitely smoother. It doesn't taste as young as it is, but I think coming with that same youngness is a little bit of a little bit more hollowness. That's not bad, especially because this is the first real steeping that we're going through here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like Denny was saying, I think it's also very sweet, just on the front, and it has a nice aftertaste as well. Kind of has a hay-ish taste. The bitterness is definitely not as prevalent, kind of like Denny said, as you would get from like a Munghai Tea Factory production or something like that, where you just get hit with a blast to the face.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd say this Pu'erh is a pretty reasonable choice to drink immediately for those that don't love the 800 punches to the face.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I agree entirely. If you do want to save some money and not buy older raw Pu'erh, which can get expensive, although there's plenty of options out there, this would be a good thing. I'm hoping that this next steeping has a little bit more length to it, maybe a little bit more fullness. So let's give it a shot. Cheers, guys. Yeah, more fruit on the front of it, I think.
Yeah.
And I think it's a little bit. It does have that length. I don't know. It's not the deepest flavor.
Definitely not
for me. So, and I think that one would hope would change with age. Although I do wonder with these purple varietals. I do wonder. I've had fair number of them fairly recently, and they sometimes do fall a little bit flat, a little bit short in that regard.
And Yiwu itself is a pretty hot region, so Malchow from that region usually runs a little bit north of the price here. So I suspect that there is a lot of skepticism with the purple varietal and like how well it will age and kind of like some of the concerns that you were talking about there. So I think that's one of the reasons why this tea fetches a slightly lower price. And I don't have enough experience to know exactly how this will age, if it will successfully go into its later years not having mellowed out too much, which is definitely a possibility. But I think I enjoyed a good deal right now.
Absolutely. This is a great daily session tea, in my opinion. And the sweetness is actually coming out a lot more when it's cooling off a little bit for me. And James is brewing it really well. It's barely hinting at that astringency, that little mouth pucker tannin zone. And I could see this being, for someone like me who, frankly, I'm not a big fan of the raw Pu'erh category. This is actually a far more approachable version of that. Not because it's sweet, but again, just because I'm not a fan of 8,000 punches. Over 9,000 punches to the face.
That's a lot of punches.
So, and James, in terms of when you would brew this, how long you would brew it for, how many steepings it would go for, all that stuff.
Yeah, this tea is cheap enough that I wouldn't mind cutting it off early if I just felt like having 5 or 6 steeps. But this tea can go for about 8 to 10 steeps if you just steep it all the way out. And so that's not a lot, but it's also not a little. So
yeah.
And I think that's kind of where this tea lasts. I think it's a nice little daily drinking raw Pu'erh that's pleasant to drink right now, and may or may not get better with age.
Yeah, very, very astute observation. I think it's really getting to its sweet spot right now on the third steeping.
Yeah.
It's much more viscous and it's got a much longer finish to it. It's still lacking a little bit of that complexity that you would hope for from an older raw Pu'erh. But nevertheless, I can't compliment this tea enough. In terms of what it is, again, we don't have wild expectations for something like this because of what it is. So
yeah, very reasonably priced tea, and just so
dribble. Cool. Well,
where can someone else find? Where can someone find out some more info about tea, Denny?
The internet. There's a website, TeaDB. That's TeaDB.org. Some people have been asking about that. Also, that stands for Tea Database. That was the intention. I don't know if we've actually clarified that once in our videos. So, TeaDB.org. Also, we're posting a bit more on Facebook. And check us out and subscribe to our YouTube channel.
Yep. We've also actually been releasing these episodes in between episodes, a.k.a. in between the sods.
In between the sods.
So Denny's created a bunch of those. So if you like Denny, and if you like to hear his tasting notes on stuff, including some crazy metaphors, you should definitely go check those
They can
out.
definitely be a little rambly, and they're full of ums. So excuse me.
Lots of hats.
But do give me some comments on those and let me know what you guys think. If
Yeah.
there are suggestions you guys have. And until next time.
Yeah, thanks for watching, guys.
See ya.